underwater. In the previous two videos, I've been developing this painting and building up to the point where we start adding the rocks underwater. Normally I would be developing the water at the same time that I'm developing the rest of the painting, but I wanted to save just the water for this last video. Most people make it more complicated than it really is. Rocks underwater are very subtle. The values are medium values. The darks are not too dark and the lights are not too light. I have to apologize too for the shaking canvas. I had a mechanical glitch that I didn't realize was happening until I finished painting this painting. Anyway, I'll try to fix that before the next video. One of the ways to make rocks appear that they are under the surface of the water is to place rocks in the water that are partially out of the water. The rocks that are partially out of the water are usually the same color as the shoreline. They have the same value as the shoreline, and they also have a reflection that's in the water. The rocks that are underwater do not have a reflection. Placing these subtle, warm values under the water, and then I'll put a shadow under the rocks later. Put a very subtle shadow right under the rock. Occasionally you need to blend some of these things together. Now add some reflections. These reflections will also help trick the brain into thinking that there's rocks under this water. The values of the reflections are a bit lower in value than the highlights that you're reflecting. When you see this in nature, you'll see some of them reflect, some of them won't, because of the way the light's striking the top of the water. Notice I'm not putting any reflections under the rocks that are underwater. Sometimes you can take your finger and drag that paint down. Make sure you drag it vertically down. Start making a few more adjustments here on the bank. I still need to warm up this foreground. Sometimes you'll be working on one part of the painting and you'll notice that another part needs to be addressed based on the changes that you've made in the previous part. Putting a few higher values on some of these rocks to help define the edges of them a bit. See, that reflection is a little bit harsh. So you just take your finger and drag it into the paint and knock it down a bit. Now I'll put some shadows under the rocks that are under the water. Remember, this value is a little higher in value than the dark accents on the shoreline. Now I'll finish warming this foreground with some more red. There's quite a bit of gray in this red too. Adjusting a few more of the highlights here. There's always these little clicks of light in a painting that really finish it off nicely. Not too many though. They're very subtle, very few. So that wraps it up for Painting Rocks Underwater. Remember to tell us what you think on Facebook, and we invite you to follow our Twitter feed and our Facebook feed at Art Lesson Videos.